Hello, and welcome to Code of Fair Testing Practices in Education, Part 4, the final part, on informing test takers. Now to review, our first part was on developing and selecting appropriate tests. The second was on administering and scoring tests. The third was on reporting and interpreting test results, and this final part will be on informing test takers. And this is all brought to you by the Joint Committee on Testing Practices 2004, and there is a link at the end in case you want to check it out. Now, informing test takers is sometimes the test developer's responsibility, and sometimes it is the responsibility of the test users, but they both have a part to play in ensuring that the test takers understand the process of the test they're taking. Now, test developers and test users must inform the test takers of the nature of the test and their rights and responsibilities for the test, as well as what these scores on the test will be used for, and the procedures for resolving any challenges to scores, which will be explained as we continue with the video. Inform coverage of test, and that includes the types of questions that will be asked. Be very specific on the directions on how to take the test and appropriate test taking strategies. Also, test takers need to be told of options provided to them. This would be test takers could be not just the test takers themselves, but if they're underage, their parents or guardians need to know all options provided to them, including consequences if they decide to not take a test, or if there is any available alternatives to one test versus another that maybe a parent or guardian or the test taker themselves would rather take. Also, test takers need to know their rights regarding copies of the test, complete answer sheets to retake tests, in other words, so they could study from to get a better score on the test, or if their scores can be changed, or if they can be invalidated, because you never know if somebody was caught cheating, or if the administrator did not administrate the test properly. Test takers need to know what they can do under these types of circumstances. Also, test takers need to be responsible for taking the test. And what I mean by that is they need to understand what the intended purpose of the test is, the use for the test results, and they need to be able to perform at their best. They need to get enough sleep. They need to make sure that they have everything that they need, whether it's a number 2 pencil or some kind of an answer sheet to use a number 2 pencil on. They need to take those responsibilities, but they can only know these if the test users or the test developers, whoever they come in contact with, notify them. They also need to follow directions properly, and to not tell other people about the test, which can be important especially on certain types of tests. You don't want to notify somebody, give them a heads up as to what the test is about, if it's important to not know that ahead of time. There are tests like that. I mean, if it's an algebra test, you can say, "Oh yeah, we talked about this and we talked about that. This is what was in the content of the test." But if it's something else doing with personality, let's say, you don't want to give them a heads up, because you want them to answer honestly and straightforwardly in order to be able to get a true score. Also, test takers need to know that they can't just release the information to anybody because some of these tests are very specific. Release of the test would ruin the test. It would no longer be valid. So test takers need to be aware of their responsibilities and then do it. Test takers also need to know how long scores will be filed and who has them, why they have them, and whether or not scores will be released. Because, if I'm taking a test, I want to know where that information goes. Test takers have the right to know where that information goes. And, test takers want to protect their scores. Whether it's low, high, medium, it doesn't matter. They want to protect themselves, or parents want to protect their children, and that makes perfect sense. So they need to know this information. Test takers also need to have procedures of investigation explained to them if a test was canceled or if the scores were said to be released and then they weren't released. Test takers need to know what kind of plan of action that they can do in order to get the answers why. And failure to specify test procedures, if it was administered incorrectly, or they just didn't say what the intended purpose of the test was. Test takers, they have a right to demand knowledge, and they have the right to know what's going on. And that's really what this is all about. You need to provide procedures regarding getting more information on tests, and that would include being able to register complaints if they felt that the test was administered unfairly, problems resolution, so that either they take the test again or they identify where something might have gone wrong and get accommodated for that. This is the end of part 4. I've enjoyed very much discussing these things with you about proper test proceedings, and I hope that you've learned a lot from them, and looking forward to talking to you again.